Welcome to our first Showcase Tuesday called Best Practices for Engaging People. This is during club and committee meetings or other meetings. You know, engagement is one of our top 4 priorities in Rotary. Tonight we'll record this session. In fact, it's being recorded now. Please mute yourself during the presentations unless you're the presenter. You may unmute yourself and ask questions after each presenter finishes. If you do not want to be heard, please enter your questions in the chat box, and Gwen Carr will review that and ask your question to the presenter. I'm going to say that you may have entered this meeting under the name of Cindy Horniman. If that's true, please rename yourself by right-clicking on the name and putting in your correct name. Hey, did you ever notice that we're most engaged when speakers are prepared, the action flows continuously, and the graphics tie into the words? That applies to all meetings, whether in person, hybrid, which is a combination of virtual and in-person, or just virtual. Did you ever notice in hybrid meetings that when you're at home or in the office, you're most engaged when the production is designed for what the virtual participants see and hear, not what's being seen and heard in the room, the in-person room? Tonight, we will learn how to conduct meetings with Ralph Witcher of the Allentown West Rotary Club and Stephen Smith of the Pottstown Rotary Club. Let's begin with Ralph. Ralph is the immediate past president of Allentown West. His meetings during 2020-21 were engaging, and he demonstrated his enthusiasm while leading those meetings. Ralph graduated from Keene College in New Jersey. He's VP for a startup software company and an independent career agent for AARP United Healthcare. Ralph joined Rotary in 2016. He's a lead singer with the Lehigh Valley Harmonizers and serves on the board of the Parkland School District Education Foundation. He's also an associate pastor at Word of Life Church in Allentown. Please welcome Ralph Witcher.
Well, thank you very much, District Governor Bob. It's a real privilege and an honor to be here today to talk about something I'm very passionate about, and that's Rotary and getting together and helping folks, strategizing, doing a better good in our communities, both locally and abroad. So this is very, very exciting. And tonight we're going to actually talk about, one second here. Just going to go up a little here. We're going to talk about delivering presentations, whether it be hybrid meetings or in-person meetings. And it's interesting, this last year and a half has been very humbling for us as an organization and as a club, that is, where we had primarily been for 15 months just hybrid virtual meetings. And we're now back to hybrid here at Allentown West, and it's a real good privilege to be able to be within 6 feet of one another and doing what we do so well, and that is just enjoying our presence and figuring out how we can help folks do better in the community. So the goal today is to walk you through a couple of thoughts on preparing a presentation on a weekly basis, or however the frequency is for your particular club. We'd like to keep it as conversational as we can. I'm going to walk you through a couple of slides to give you a couple of options in general. This here is more so to be more of a brainstorming session for you. So some best practices to consider, things that has worked well for us over the last 1 year period and the like, but feel free to pick and choose, what works best for you if you have a vision for it. And we're also provide time for questions and answers as we get through the presentation here, okay? So with that said, when it comes to presentations, there are primarily 2 forms. There is the traditional culture and presentations, and then there's also a new culture in Rotary Club, which is non-traditional, and it's more perhaps creative and innovative in ways that you may be the first to think of at this point in time. But either way, it's good for your club. And so we're going to give you some examples of what those are like. When it comes to a PowerPoint presentation, we have the traditional club culture at the Allentown West Club. And what we did was very interesting. Amir was the first to start off before we went into the new calendar year with the virtual meetings, but we just kept it flowing from a traditional standpoint from the on-site into the virtual meetings through Zoom. And it worked out well for us, but we'll give you an example what that looks like and some alternatives around that. The goal here is to take your presentations, if you have a Zoom facility to present your meetings, use whether it's Zoom or Vox or Microsoft Teams or some other facility that you have that works. You're going to project those your presentation slides that everybody can see. We have actually started last month, in the month of June, to, for the first time, have hybrid meetings. That means we have 2 times a month, we have on-site meetings, and then 2 times a month or so, we have virtual meetings. During the on-site meetings, we make them hybrid, so folks can be remote and have the same experience that they would as if they're inside. And we do that by, after this, you'll learn more about some ways to set that up, but it's really good to have it, okay? But the big picture is that everyone feels part of the meeting, everyone participates equally, and it's very useful. And the big picture overarching when it comes to the presentation that I'd like to give you a thought for is engagement. I look at each week, each Rotary meeting is an opportunity to have a very meaningful, viable interaction with one another. And that's what makes Rotary great. The folks in it coming together, strategizing, doing things like that. So when it comes to the traditional structure of a presentation, at the Allentown Rotary Club, it looks something similar to this. We have an invocation where we would actually open up in prayer. We then would go into a Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll do anniversaries. And I will also tell you that we make a pretty big deal out of it. As a matter of fact, in our club, you'll notice that we have the 4-way test examples in our lives, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. We use happy dollars. As a matter of fact, last year, what we've done was we started out with happy dollars because the way I saw it is it's happiness that gives us the fuel to actually get through not only just the meeting, but get through the year on schedule with vigor and vitality. So we see a unique opportunity for each one of us to come together and allow each one of us to share in each other's happiness. So you'll get some examples of that. We're good at telling jokes and songs. So if you didn't get your singing lessons, when you come to our club, you're going to brush up real quick and it's going to work out just great. We'll give you examples of that, just joshing. And then we also center each meetings around having a great guest speaker. And when I say great guest speaker, I'm talking about someone that's interesting, doing interesting things in the community, and also that is very informative and just good to know for what we're doing to help other folks. So that's the big overarching part when it comes to the traditional meeting. Again, this is what we've done at the Allentown West Rotary Club. It's worked for us, but there's also alternatives. You could have a new culture in your club, and we have other clubs that may desire to start out with, say, meditation instead of prayer, perhaps happy dollars at some point in their meetings, then project planning or overview. So it's more focused on, let's talk about project plannings, and everything's going to be circled around that, planning of projects and things to that example. Some clubs may even just as well take time to meet in the evening time or over a happy hour. So it's definitely more informal from that standpoint. And then they bring speakers, and they could be multiple speakers. It doesn't have to be just one speaker. And it's very, very, again, innovative and creative thought process you can add to this. But again, the big picture is, one, looking for how to leverage engaging everybody in the club where it makes sense and everybody's having fun. And then one of the things that I've also thought about as we were leading the meetings was, why are we doing this? What's the big intention? So to me, it's all about how can we take those that have more and strategize on giving others that they may have more in the community. And that's what we do. So everything that we're doing through each step of the meeting, it's with that big picture in mind. And if there's anything that goes, to the left or to the right of the main big picture, I actually work to bring it back to the center in that regard. So it's useful. Okay. Now, when it comes down to preparing the PowerPoint, I think that I found it an exciting opportunity because to engage others in a group. So, albeit that I would, as president, would put together a PowerPoint and have chief responsibility for it, I would also work to get others involved in, if they have gotten involved in a project for a particular week. Well, can you send the pictures? So every week when they got involved in doing something, whether it be helping out at the food pantry or just doing some other things with Meals on Wheels, that is, they would automatically know, just send those photographs, before the meeting to Ralph, and we would work those into the slides. We also have not just the speaker show up. We also thought it was great to, sometimes when you sell the sizzle, you get more people to dinner as opposed to the steak itself, because they smell it, they have an appetite for it. So we actually advertise the speaker. We get their bios in advance. We communicate those to the actual club and the friends of the club in advance, like a few days before the meeting or the week leading into that meeting. And so they get a chance to see the speaker and the focus topic, and it could gain more interest in that regard. We also include videos in our club where it makes sense. I'll give you an example of one or two of those. Music, again, where it's appropriate. And then we also work to bring project updates. Project updates, I think, are really important because in the end, people come to Rotary because they like to get involved. And, District Governor Bob said, he said Ralph was in Rotary since 16. So I knew you meant 2016. But the truth is, I was Rotarian before I knew I was Rotarian. So I should have been 16 in the Rotarian. That means the four-way test and how Rotary is built on is just something I've always lived by. So it just made a lot of sense in that regard. So the projects really spell out and bring to life the entire mission of Rotary. And if you can work to include some level of engagement that your club is doing every week in those meetings and these presentations, it keeps everybody motivated and doing more of the right things the right way. So when it comes to delivery, it's good to be, having a passionate presentation. It's interesting. There used to be this commercial, and the guy would wake up about 3 a.m. and it's like, time to make the donuts. I said like that. I know that nobody does a presentation that way, but I just knew that we couldn't do a presentation that way because, people get tired of donuts after a bit. So you had to be more passionate about it. And the way I think passion works, particularly for Rotary, is just to show your impact. Anytime you do something in a community, if you can get the person or the organization leader to write you a letter to say, you guys actually made the difference in what we're doing, and let me tell you how, and then bring that back to the club during your weekly meetings, it does a lot to stir up passion, to say, you know what, we're doing the right things the right way. And that keeps it really going from that end. Also, as you're getting folks involved in your presentation, give them clear instructions, work within timelines and guides around that. And then like right now, I know that I have a certain amount of time to talk. So I'm very clear on how to stay in the boundaries of that. So you do that, but not go too fast, keep it up to pace and the like. Entertainment, entertain the audience. So we actually, during the Happy Dollars, we also have Sergeant at Arms, where we've done this for years. And the person that is doing Sergeant of Arms, it's very interesting about that position because if you're not funny, and you do that about a week or two, you get real funny real fast because there's something about that position that makes you funnier when you do it, and everybody laughs. We have a good time as we're pulling money out of our pocket, put it in the basket, and then share the stage with club members. So it's no big eyes or little U's. It's just team. It's teamwork makes the dream work. Okay. All right. So. Just a couple more slides here. When it comes to the speaker, I talked about it. It's good to have an engaging topic to talk about. Like this week, oh my gosh, we have someone that's actually going to be talking about the history of cryptography. And it's going to be talking about, how all of these hacks are happening. It's going to lead up to that ultimately. And the speaker is from a really big tech company that really knows a lot about this sort of thing. So I could tell you when people are looking, they're going to all be leaning forward saying, wow, 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 because it's going to make sense. And you're going to have, some really good insight from that standpoint. We actually had the person that's running for president for the country of Mongolia come and speak at our club in February. It was fantastic, you know. And so just we had former ThinkPad, if you remember IBM ThinkPad, the former brand steward come and speak at our club, just about things from a marketing standpoint. And so it's very interesting. Think of those things. I think it's really a wonderful way of just learning. It's like the best learning class you can ever have, and you could be Rotarian at the same time. The other part is that we've actually had public speakers, or shall I say, political leaders, like our state senator, come and talk to us. We've had the chief of police. We actually acknowledged the chief of police for a Paul Harris in our town this year. Last year it was, but it was really, really good. So it's excellent. Just think of that. The world is your oyster when it comes to speakers, but it's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. So as we summarize here, we at the Allentown West Rotary Club, we use the traditional club presentation method, but we encourage you to do whatever works to you. You can take a little of this and a little of that and make it 100% you. That is your club. We've been successful having those traditional meetings. That's why we continue it. But I'm also open from our standpoint to do other things. I just think it's really neat because the big picture is that we come together to do good things. And then depending upon what is important to your club, you should just figure how to take what works right. There's no cookie cutter method here. There's only what makes sense to you. Okay, so I'm gonna just pause for a moment and then ask if you have any questions. If not, I do have some slides that I can actually give you an example of some things that the way we've done it at the Allentown West Rotary Club, if you think that would be useful.
So there are no questions in the chat, Ralph.
Okay.
So maybe you can give us maybe one or two examples because we are.
And if any of our participants want to unmute themselves and ask a question, now's the time.
Okay.
I have a question. How do you operate your hybrid meetings?
Okay. Are you asking technologically?
Technically, right.
I would say buckle your seatbelt. You're going to have, Stephen is going to talk more about that after I get done talking, because we know everybody wanted to know about the logistics. So that's a great question, Sean. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you select and manage your speakers? Are they managed by one person? Are they contributed by a pool or what?
Yes. I mean, last year, to me, it just like made sense that I would work to manage the process of the speakers. So I'm doing it this year as program chair. I did it last year. And then people in the club would say, hey, Ralph, I have this great speaker. And guess what I do? I said, great. They just hand me their credentials, contact credentials. I contact them. I set it up. The reason why I think it's good to have someone that at least have a perspective on it, because I found it's better when you're setting up a meeting, if you can clearly define what they're talking about and have a description of what their presentation is going to be like and put that on the club calendar, you get more bang for the buck when it comes down to getting people to participate. Secondly is, I happen to notice that on our website, we've been a club since 1962, and we've had Club Runner probably since 2011. I happen to putz around and push a couple buttons, and I actually was able to go all the way back to 2011 and find out all the speakers we've had every week from that time. I was like, that's pretty cool. Now, I will also tell you that I happen to notice that much of the information on the website was, here's the name, bam. Didn't even have their title in some cases, no description, and maybe not even a topic. So it wasn't that useful in posterity to go back and have that information out there. So the goal would be have that information there for archive purposes. But then I also build on that when it comes to the weekly meeting, sending out the communication. I have a bio, I have this couple of, so it's pretty clear and it's thorough from that standpoint. So good question, Mark. Appreciate it. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other question? Let me just show you a couple things from an agenda standpoint. I'm going to just buzz through this so you can get an idea. So just some fun stuff. Here's the agenda. We're going to go straight to Happy Dollars, Invocation, and the like. And I say, hey, you know what, Allentown West, we are going places. That's why I kind of changed the logo there a little bit so people could have some fun with it. And then we go into the Happy Dollars. I just put up a slide like this and I said, great, who's happy? And who in here is happy and want to pay about it? And then I said, pull out your money. Let's get going. And then we hit them across the head. But we also get happier dollars. We have an esteemed member, Dawn Costello, in our club. She's been a member for decades. But she actually left me a voicemail message. She said, it's just so cute. She said, Ralph, my my granddaughter, Maddie, she actually qualified for the World Triathlon that's coming up in October. And then she says, I don't know, but I hope there's somewhere I can hitch a ride to Bermuda.
Oh,
She didn't know I was doing this. So the next week, I just took that, put it on the slide, as you just see it here. And we just had some fun. We just celebrated that woman, celebrating her granddaughter, doing some extraordinary stuff. And, even if you don't know that you're somebody, if somebody in your club has somebody like Maddie going places like this, you can feel a little bit better like you're somebody. So this is good stuff. So we look for, I've learned in life that what you celebrate, you elevate. Okay, so that's the big picture. We also talk about anniversaries, big deal anniversaries. Here's an example, one particular month in the month of June, we just celebrate anniversaries for weddings, birthdays, and when they actually join our club. And we even sing to them sometimes if they're behaving themselves. Invocation, this picture we got from one of our club members who was walking the park one morning, and he said, Ralph, I'm gonna send that to you. And we use that. We pledge allegiance. And this is the best part of the club for me, because there's not many places you can go, at least where in my neck of the woods during a week, where you can actually pledge allegiance with someone. We also have Bill Palmer, for instance, does a newsletter every week. He puts together a quote. We take that quote, we amplify it in our meetings so everybody gets a chance to see it. Here's an example of fundraiser we did. We start out the calendar year we've never done this before. It was an online raffle, and we actually raised over $10,000 during that raffle. We put it up here, special thanks and the like. It was fun. It was the first 2 months of the calendar year. And guess who won? They were all Rotarians who won. And you can see how happy they are. They're like in the money now. Okay, that's just an example. We also did a very unique fundraiser. Gwen was the spearhead of this. And that was basically taking, called the lookbook. So we had the summer and everybody had time with their families, send in a picture or two and we'll put it all together. And this is a collage for the club and all their families together. And you just pay $20 for it. When I think we raised about $600 towards the low food pantry to help them out.
Actually, $1,000.
$1,000. See, that was pretty neat. Yeah, so we just make visibility of that. We welcome our guests. We make it clear that folks know that we need more Rotarians. We also have fun with the four-way test. Marlene Heller, and I think I got 2 minutes. She actually has, she said, Ralph, why don't we apply it better and give examples of that? So we kick it off with a song, for instance. We could do it, right? Or we could actually, we could do it from Africa.
Of the things we think, say, or do.
So we have some fun that way. We also have examples. We talk about using four-way tests in a different way. In this case, is it your thirst? Is it enough for all concerned? Will it build goodwill and good friendships? And then is it fresh? Is it perfectly toasted? We just have fun with it. And then one of the things we did that was really neat was we asked Rotarians we have members in our clubs 50 years Rotarian, perfect attendance, by the way. What does it mean to be Rotarian? Just share your thoughts with it. Well, on 1 week, Jean Mockimer actually shared with us what it meant to her to be a Rotarian. And I was like this, my jaw was dropped the whole time she was talking. And I was taking copious notes. And the next week I just put it together on a slide. And I said, I'll never forget this. This is what Rotary means to her. And so we capture that and archive it to inspire others as well. We also every week do club updates. So if we have a club event, we actually let folks know about it. An example, this week we actually got a letter back from the director with Family Promise. Listen to what she said. She said, thank you. But she says, because of your generous donors like you, they were able to help 35 individuals find a place called home, 19 of which were children. Absolutely precious. We actually got a note from the president of the zoo in our area, and she asked if we could come and help paint. So guess what we did? We went out there and paint. Look at these folks. These are good looking Rotarians, good at work, right? So we actually share that. We have projects that we've worked with in Mongolia, where Nick Millward actually lives in Japan. He's a former Interact student, but now he's a Marine and he's actually working in Japan, and he's doing good things around the world, and we're helping him by evidence with these slides that we talk about. And then we talk about upcoming events. You know, here they are, you can get involved. And then we do the guest speaker, okay? And that's an example of how we would let the guest speaker go. But that's it for us. I mean, hopefully this was very useful to you. Bob, if there's no more questions, I'll just turn it back off to you, okay?
Yeah, let's find out. Are there any more questions? Well, you know, if not, Ralph, I've got to say that not only was that helpful and informative, but we could feel the passion that you use when you delivered this club meeting PowerPoint. I mean, and really all these slides that you see back here on this end that Ralph shared with us in the last 5 minutes, they're all used on a weekly basis, and he updates it each week. I mean, what a tremendous amount of preparation, but what bang for the buck when you get to the meeting. So thank you so much, Ralph.
Thank you, Bob.
Listen, we're going to take a couple-minute break and let Steve Smith tee it up, and we'll resume in 7:27. If just find out from Steve how he's doing.
Okay,
Steve, would you like to roll?
I'm ready when you are.
Well, it would be my pleasure to introduce you, Steve. Steve Smith produces the hybrid meetings at the Pottstown Rotary Club. He uses sound equipment, cameras, and screens so that those at home feel the in-person meeting in their living rooms. Steve graduated from Lehigh University and spent a career at Applied Controls in Malvern. He joined Rotary in 2006 and served as the foundation and club president. Steve has provided audio and visual services for us at our district conferences in the past. And now Steve lives in New York and Pottstown. And like me, he likes to sail boats, so he understands set your sails. Please welcome Stephen Smith.
Very good. I'm going to go forge ahead if everybody ready. Give a nod if you are. All right. Okay. Well, they asked me to try to tell you how Pottstown Club got through hybrid meetings. And with this, I've got a little PowerPoint for you that talks about the nuts and bolts of creating a hybrid meeting. Now, if you've got your gallery view still open on the right side of your screen or somewhere, this would be a good chance for you to hide the thumbnail view. That's that single line in your gallery view. That'll just tuck it up out of the way so you can see the PowerPoint. So it was last April when we went virtual. We didn't even know what Zoom meetings were prior to that. So we went and learned about Zoom meetings. We had our laptop, we made it work. We've got most everybody in the club onto Zoom meetings, taught a couple of them better features and functions. And that got us going through most of that high COVID year. And then it came to this April, where by that point, we wanted to get back to our meetings. So we wanted to get back into in-person meetings, but we also had people who wanted to be virtual. So let's see. The general idea is people came back, and we used the Brookside Country Club here in Pottstown to have our meetings, but it wasn't everybody. They weren't all totally comfortable with it. So since we knew about Zoom software, half the people were still at home. We needed to create a hybrid meeting, but the biggest challenge was to try to make everybody involved feel part of the meeting. So one of the things that you may or may not have known, Rotary International has a blog site, and that blog site presented how to run a virtual meeting or hybrid meeting now. They put that together, and it pretty much echoed everything that we were already doing. So I'm borrowing some of the layout screens and some of the stuff that was presented on this blog site from Rotary International. But let me just walk you through the concept and the layout of the meeting. At the bottom of the screen, you see your local people. Here we are at our clubhouse. We're having dinner or whatever. Now it's after the dinner. Fortunately, our club already had a projector and screen and a laptop. One of our members definitely contributes the laptop towards this endeavor, so that normally we were there presenting PowerPoint presentations from our speakers or maybe videos or such. So he had some of the key ingredients to making this hybrid. What was missing? Well, the projector now pulled up a Zoom meeting. It showed the people at home to the people who were sitting in the clubhouse. We wanted the people at home to also see everybody that was at the club. So we bought ourselves a Logitech camera, the start item in the top right corner of the screen. So now everybody at home could see the people here. We also wanted to have everybody at home hear all the comments and all the speakers and such as they were in the room. So we also bought a microphone. We actually picked a brand that was recommended from Rotary International called a Blue Yeti brand microphone. It's an omnidirectional microphone. It sits right in the middle of the room, but literally it picks up all the voice chatter. And so people at the club can talk to people at home. And we wanted to hear from the people at home. So we also had a speaker plugged into the headphone jack of your laptop. And so now people at home that talked, we were here at the club and we could hear them. What orchestrated this was, well, it used to be our sergeant of arms. He now became our Zoom master. Somebody who sits in the background and kind of orchestrates all of those pieces of hardware and the video on the screen. He supplements what our president or maybe your host is doing that night, usually somebody else. They may end up using the club laptop or they may end up using their own. We actually got away with just using one laptop for our evening's presentations, and it worked fine for most of what we've been running now, a hybrid meeting. So just a quick reiteration. People at home are seen on the projector screen to everybody here at our club. The comments that people are at home are making, we'll allow them to talk. We hear them as if they're right there with us in the meeting through a big speaker that we have at the front of the room. Likewise, the people at home see everybody here at our meeting, so they feel part of it because we have a camera and we have a microphone. So between those 4 pieces of equipment, it pretty much tries to make everything inclusive for those at home or at the club. That guy in the background, well, what he tries to do is make it a very animated presentation. There's a spotlight feature in Zoom software that we can bring out the key person who's speaking. Maybe it's our presenter for the evening. Maybe it's the president at the podium. So we try to focus on that, make it an interesting presentation. He becomes kind of a quasi videographer, and I allow him and move the camera around as you need, put it on focus as the person speaking, put it on the speaker who's up at the podium at the appropriate times. We also do a lot of PowerPoint presentations. We have a lot of our programs and speakers use that. So we also have that person give us the presentation. We put it on our club laptop. And again, that Zoom master, he actually helps make that thing poke up. So the program of the night or the host or the speaker doesn't have as much to worry about other than being right in front of the crowd. So here's the nuts and bolts of what makes a hybrid meeting work. One of the things, the big expense item is your projector and screen. We're hoping that most of the clubs already had a projector and screen in use and a laptop just for your own programs or presentations and such. What's new is, well, you need a webcam. The recommendation was a Logitech C920. Go to Amazon Prime, order one up. You'll have it fairly quick. Also, we spend a little bit more money on a microphone of our own. The Logitech C920 camera has a built-in microphone. And for many months, we used that microphone, but we found it really wasn't inclusive. It didn't catch everybody's voice nice and crisp like what you wanted. That Blue Yeti parked in front of the, kind of in the middle of the room, is an omnidirectional microphone. It picked up everybody. And so those at home heard everybody as clearly as if they were at the meeting. And again, from the blog site, they recommended you get a speaker. Well, they recommended a JBL Flip, a reasonably priced microphone or speaker, excuse me. I actually just went down to Boscov's, picked up an $87 version of a speaker and plugged it into the laptop. But it took care of letting everybody in the room hear everybody that was at home and took care of that. The room that you're using, we're hoping most everybody's got a facility or place that has high-speed internet. Wi-Fi makes it easy so that you're wireless. You can move around the room as you need with your laptop or whatever, but you do need that minimum of a 5 MIPS upload speed. You can run tests on the network to find out what speed your network is, but that's a good minimum to run at. Anything better than that, you'll be fine. And because we use Zoom, and actually Rotary even advertised getting to that Zoom software, the normal personal license only runs for about 40 minutes. So we got the pro license. Our club purchased it, $120 a year, but Rotary gets a 20% Zoom discount. So if you haven't already gotten to the world of Zoom, it's free software for all your constituents, all your members, but the pro license allows us to set up the meetings and get everything up and running. Now, setting up the club laptop. First thing you do at the night, get signed on to Zoom. Then start connecting everything up to your laptop. The microphone, the camera, the speaker, the projector, all those get hooked up, and then just make sure they're all accessible. In other words, there is a test feature in Zoom and a feature in Zoom that you can pick which camera to use. Don't forget, a lot of laptops have their own built-in camera. So you would pick an external camera and make that the one of focus so that the guy can move it around as he sees the need. Same way there's speakers on your laptops. So pick an external one through the headphone jack. And then as a good check before the meeting starts, have your Zoom master run that test feature built into Zoom so we can adjust the sounds on the speaker and also make sure that the microphone is nice and loud to everybody who's listening in. Now, the Zoom master, your guy who probably at one point was part of the, sitting in the background, getting things running. Get him to sign in as the host, how he pretty much runs things. Other presenters, your president, your program for the night, their laptops, if they're going to use one, make them co-hosts. Gives them easier access to everything that they're trying to do. Spotlight the people, and even the people at home that are talking, or maybe they're running the presentation. They can do that from a remote site, and yet everybody at the club sees what's going on. Suggest that your guy move that camera around. We put a USB extension cable on the camera to make it easy for him or her to move it around and put it in front of the podium or focus on the audience or people in the audience and take it from there. And also one other job for him, if it's a PowerPoint presentation as part of your program that night, why don't you have him manage the presentation slides and have him or her kind of click through them and make it work for everybody. He can usually do some things to make that, what you see on the screen in the front of the room, nice and clear. You can actually even get rid of little excess pieces, like what you see at the top of your screen could be hidden. And so it becomes a detriment maybe, but little knowledge of Zoom controls and you can get things tucked out of the way. One other thing we've learned as we went along, people at home have interference, whether it be a dog, somebody at the door, something else. So again, what became Zoom etiquette? was muting members and letting them unmute themselves when they wanted to talk. So anytime you want to learn more of some of those little features I mentioned, zoom.us is a place to go. They've got a wealth of information about how to run their software. Now, as I said, this was all part of a blog that Rotary International had back last December. I'm going to give it to you again, part of what I saw on that presentation as a, well, let's say it's a summary refresher. See if you remember everything I just told you through this video. And this video is on YouTube, so you can see it any day of the week, anytime you want. So let's see and just listen in to what was presented just a couple months ago.
This is a quick start guide for running a virtual in-person club meeting for up to 50 to 100 people. We start with our regular club meeting laptop, speaker, projector, and screen. We connect our laptop to our Zoom meeting. Then we plug in a high-quality microphone and a webcam facing our in-person members and guests. Finally, your president faces their laptop toward themselves, and a Zoom master, in-person or virtual, runs the meeting. So in review, all that's needed to run a VIP meeting, beyond the laptop, speaker, projector, and screen that most clubs have, is a microphone, a webcam, a second laptop for the president, and a third laptop for a Zoom master. And note that the president or Zoom master could be physically present in the meeting or remote, connected on Zoom. Now let's provide some detail on the mic and webcam. We recommend a Blue Yeti omnidirectional microphone. When centrally located, it can capture audio from anyone speaking in the room and is the only microphone used. We recommend a Logitech C920 webcam, given its cost, resolution, and field of view positioned next to the screen. Now let's provide some detail on Zoom settings for the 3 laptops. The club laptop must be configured in Zoom to use the external webcam and microphone. The president's laptop should have its microphone on mute and audio off. The Zoom master should also have their microphone on mute and audio off. Finally, the club laptop should be set to speaker view within Zoom, and the president should be on Zoom speaker view. The magic in this setup is that the webcam and mic allow remote participants to see and hear all in-person members, and in-person members can see remote Zoom participants on the screen. Proper placement of the webcam and mic allow anyone in person to step forward facing the webcam and screen and speak to all virtual participants, while also being seen on the screen by in-person participants. If a club wants to accommodate more than 50 or even 100 people, depending upon the number of Zoom participants, a more sophisticated configuration can be used. A printable summary of this quick start configuration is available for download on our website at tgig.org.
So there you have it. As I said, our club was way ahead of the game, I guess, back last April when we got started with this, but it just was so coincidental that we picked a lot of the same features that came recommended in this blog that tonight I just wanted to reiterate what has been out there for everybody and just make sure you knew, some of the nuts and bolts about how to put together a meeting like this. There is a great PDF that goes along with it. It's a little 4-page PDF about running a virtual meeting, but actually that's evolved to now becoming a hybrid meeting. So that's my presentation. I'll open the floor for any questions, should there be any.
There is one question, Steve, for you that's in the chat, but I think Len answered it. So it's from Gail, and she's just asking about the USB extension. So Len's response was the USB extension is basically an extension cord for USB, makes the USB cable longer so you can move farther away from the computer.
Right. the normal cable that came with a small camera was about 6 foot long. I added a 6 foot extension cable. It just lengthens it. So now I can go 12 foot away from my laptop, which gives me, it affords me a little laxity with moving that camera around. Okay.
Thank you. At this point, if you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask Steve directly.
I have a question. I don't know if you can see this, Steve, but I'm looking on Amazon right now and at that Logitech.
C920?
Yeah. And there are quite a few different options for it. It looks like there's like a pro webcam for like $90. And then there's some for like $54.
Yeah.
Does it?
The Pro sounds about right. $90. I can imagine that after last year, the prices went up $10 or such.
Okay.
So that sounds about the right one. Does it have the word USB written on it? A USB webcam?
No, it says Logitech C920X HD Pro webcam, full HD 1080.
It's got the right specification.
Hey,
It's
Steve,
a
if you're
high resolution version.
Steve, if you're willing, maybe you and Gail can talk offline and drill down on the exact thing she's looking at.
Sure.
We're set right now. John is taking care of all of our technical needs right now. But I feel like, there's going to be opportunities where we have committee meetings and maybe we want to have a smaller group. And I feel like I still want to be able to have a group meeting, even if it's small, and include the Zoom thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We do our board
An
meetings.
investment in having this.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gail, we use this little setup of a camera and a microphone and such, even for our board meetings, which are only, an hour long. But some of our board of directors don't want to be or can't make it to the clubhouse for a meeting, for instance. Right. So we pick them up at home, and it works out pretty well for just that purpose.
Right.
I put the link for that in Amazon in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Check the chat, Scale.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
That should be it. It sounded about right. Like I said, last year it was $80 when I bought it, but now it's the fact that everybody bought one, it went up about $10.
What we do also in our club is I bring one of my other phones and I have a little mount, and I just separately have that from a different angle. So people said that it's just like being in the meeting by having that. In addition, just like you said, it's worked perfect and they have multiple views.
Oh yeah.
Steve, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I've participated in many hybrid meetings, and one of the real problems with hybrid Rotary meeting is the utensils on the plates. How is it that we can cut out background noise? Because I'll tell you, when I'm in your Pottstown Club meeting, I don't hear so much of that noise.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the microphone we picked does that job for you. It's got it's a high quality microphone for the purpose of just that. It's omnidirectional, but somehow it's a filter in it probably that cuts out some of that chatter, that tinny noise that you would normally have picked up on. We don't have that issue, but I don't know how much it is. Also, we pretty much try to hold off on all the heavy duty presentation stuff until after dinner. Maybe they're having coffee and dessert, but most of our presentations are at the end. So you're not really in the middle of eating a dinner when you're trying to also do a program. So I don't know if that was part of your situation. Could have been. But check that Blue Yeti microphone out. I think you'll be impressed by how the quality of its audio is.
Thanks. Any other questions for Steve? This is a great chance.
Hi, Steve. It's Carolyn Jordan. And I'm wondering, when you have the screen with the projector, are you using that screen to show the presentation if the speaker has a PowerPoint slide? You have
Just like, yep, just like we did tonight. If you consider what's in front of you right now, probably the grid view, you see
Yep.
everybody on the gallery. For most of the dinner, and we're a dinner club, so most of the dinner, we're seeing people at home or they're coming in as the dinner progresses and such. So we start seeing people. We've got them all muted, and we've even muted our main for the moment, so they can talk amongst themselves. So we don't hear them. We turn off the speaker and such. So they're having their own little kind of a quasi breakout meeting. But then at some point, we get the president back in front of the group, and now we more or less let everything start running.
The president doesn't need an extra laptop up at the podium like the RI thing said. You're running it off the club laptop.
Yeah, matter of fact, we get away with just one laptop, and it's worked very successfully for us for the year. Because that guy we call our Zoom master, he's orchestrating it. So he'll move the camera right up to the podium so that people at home see the president, listen to her. She's talking through the microphone, of course. And when we do have a presentation, let's say a program comes up for the night and they want to use either video or they want to use a PowerPoint, we still use the club laptop to run it, but we have a little wireless clicker that you could give to the person who's doing the presentation. They can click through their PowerPoint slides or just a nod of the head and we'll click it for them at the appropriate time. But we run that same PowerPoint through our laptop. But again, if they were somebody in Texas, for instance, doing a program, and we had that happen here not that long ago, they come in on the Zoom presentation, we make them a co-host, and it's as if they were right there in our club. They pulled up their PowerPoint and their videos, showed us everything we wanted. Everybody in the remote site saw it because we made them, gave her spotlight view, and everybody in the club saw it. Half the time they were just looking up the screen anyway. So no matter who was presenting, whether it was in person or not, they were watching the big screen.
Anybody else for a question for Steve?
So,
Hey, if not, Steve, I got to tell you something. Great presentation. And I really preferred yours to that recorded thing that you showed.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one thing you got to remember about Steve. Steve is very modest. He talked about himself in the third person. But I've watched Steve, and he runs around with that camera, and he runs the PowerPoints. And Steve, you do a great job for Pottstown Club. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you really
Well,
do.
Thank you very much for the compliment. We really try to make it a good presentation for everybody, whether they're home or not, or at the club.
Now, will you, Steve, and you, Ralph, be available to field questions if, let's just say someone has one, they can call you?
Oh, sure. If they, like I left you in the presentation, you might have seen some links. Don't forget to go up to Rotary International and Google the blog site. You can see it there. And there are hot links to get you those PDF manuals on how to run the meeting. They're very good and they're very succinct. So check that out. And let me know if you have any questions. Bob, forward email addresses around, we'll find.
Thank you, Steve. So that was really terrific. We've heard about in-person meetings, virtual meetings, and hybrid meetings. And there's really a seamless web here in running a meeting. And the bottom line is that we have to keep our people entertained. We have to think of our audience when we run a meeting. It's not just the words we choose, but it's how we show it and how we make it play. So please join us for the next Tuesday showcase on August 10th about membership, how to bring in new members into your club and how to keep them there. Please have a good night, and remember that this Tuesday showcase, or the Showcase Tuesday, has been recorded and will be available later. Good night, everybody.